Hello, you've caught me thinking about how brilliant Hideo Kojima is. Sorry to state the obvious, but I quite like his work. Long-time viewers of the channel will know I'm a huge fan of the Metal Gear series and Death Stranding, and now Death Stranding 2 is out, it's basically all I can think about. There is literally no way these games could have been made by anyone else. He is a unique, singularly brilliant tour de force of video game creation and design philosophy whose work has shaped and influenced the entire industry. And because I'm so excited about Death Stranding 2 and what brilliant Kojima-isms ooze out of its every tar-covered pore, I've decided to do a recap of my favourite Kojima moments so far.
What took you so long?
So, here are 7 times Hideo Kojima was an absolute genius.
Absolute genius?
You're completely undermining me here.
Undermining you?
Are you trying to do that thing where you mimic Kojima-like dialogue by asking the most basic of protagonist-style questions?
A protagonist?
Let's start with the first time most of us were shown Hideo Kojima's genius, finding Meryl's codec frequency on the back of the box. It's hard to overstate the impact Metal Gear Solid had on a generation of fledgling gamer brains. Even now, in a media landscape where self-referential humour is almost expected, the fourth wall obliterating Psycho Mantis boss fight is still used as the strongest example of what games can do to challenge players' expectations. And rightly so. It's flippin' brilliant. As fantastic as that moment is, though, to me the defining Kojima moment of MGS is the way he blew our minds by including real-life props in the gameplay. When you first hear the words, "it should be on the back of the CD case," your mind immediately goes to the optical disc Baker just gave you. But you faff in the menu and find nothing, quickly coming to the realization that you'll have to think outside the box. Quite literally. Finding this on the back of the actual game box was a thrill no gaming moment has given me since. The idea that some tangible, physical thing I held in my hands was a key to progressing further in the game wasn't new, but for the game to acknowledge it and use it as a plot device. No way, said 12-year-old me. There is no way I am ever going to be that shocked by a video game ever again. How naive I was, because now we come to entry number 2 on this list of Kojima's genius moments, keeping Raiden a secret. To have the hero of the first game, a bona fide PlayStation legend, be the focus of the entire advertising campaign for Metal Gear Solid 2, only for him to be replaced by a brand new unknown protagonist a couple of hours in without so much as a whiff of rumour beforehand, is unfathomable in our current age. Despite the initial controversy, this is now fondly remembered as possibly the most successful rug pull in video game history. But it's not just a bait and switch for the sake of it, it's the start of an insightful commentary on gaming, war, the perceived copy and paste nature of video game sequels, and everything in between. Raiden is actually the unknowing test subject of the S3 plan, an AI process that is designed to mimic the events of the first Metal Gear as part of some heinous plot. Of course, this went completely over my head at the time, and also now. For all the Metal Geariness of it, the idea that Raiden is supposed to be a stand-in for and emulate the behaviour of Solid Snake in-game as well as in real life is a meta punch of biblical proportions. It then turns out the S3 plan wasn't a thing, and that you'd instead actually been talking to an AI Colonel Campbell the entire time, in a scene that now feels remarkably prescient, almost quarter of a century later. Anyway, Raiden, a young, blonde, clean-shaven rookie. Anti-Snake, I'd call him. Imagine trying to keep something like this a secret now. Bravo, Kojima-san. Bravo. Genius Kojima moment number 3 is the boss fight with the Sorrow in Metal Gear Solid 3, which is quite the achievement given the already high bar of boss quality in the series and the rogues gallery in this game itself. But for all the cheesy fun of the pain or unique ways to take down the end or the fear, for me it's got to be the Sorrow. It's got everything. Unique atmosphere, creative mechanics, pathos. Well, actually it doesn't have fighting. When you think about it, there's nothing particularly new here, but it's presented in such a novel way, you can't help but be knocked back by it. Travelling to the underworld to face a dead boss, only to be attacked by the ghostly apparitions of your previous victims, is a surprisingly effective way to get you to reflect upon your lethal playstyle up to that point, all while stripping you of any real agency in the fight, save for how you die before going into a menu to revive yourself, because that is how you win. You have to remember the fake death pill you've had in your inventory since the beginning of the game, and remember the brief mention of it from Commander Zero, and take it, followed by the revival pill, jolting Snake out of this psychic hellscape and back into the real world. If the Psychomantis fight is expectation subversion 101, then the sorrow is effectively the quantum physics of messing with players. It can also be really funny, having "You ate me!" yelled at you by a guard that you had killed, who then got eaten by a vulture that you then ate. No notes. Entry 4 now, and when you're the developer making the 4th entry of a series you're very possibly getting fatigued by, what better way to hammer that point home than making the audience play as a slow old man? Seriously? You want to send a pensioner into a war zone? Shame on you. Far from being just a gimmick, the genius inclusion of Old Snake, literally just an old solid snake if you're one of those Nathans watching this, a Nathan being what I like to call someone who deliberately refuses to understand the story of Metal Gear, resulted in gameplay changes you really had to pay attention to. Instead of having a stamina bar, Snake had a psych bar that affected the regeneration of your health, which was in turn affected by a stress bar, which went up if you did anything particularly taxing. You know, like running or fighting a walking tank. As much as managing stress on the battlefield might not sound like fun, this was a brilliant mechanic that made for the best type of genius moments, comedy genius moments. Watching the valiant, solid Snake become so deflated because Meryl told him he looks old is genuinely hilarious. Look at him, he looks so humbled. It seems that age has, in fact, slowed you down just a little bit, just a smidge. So Metal Gear Solid is over for good, and that's it. But what if? Genius moment number 5. It actually wasn't over, and production had secretly begun on the 5th game, disguised as another game. Ho ho ho, delightfully devilish, Kojima-san. And so the Phantom Pain was revealed in 2012, not as the final chapter of Metal Gear made by Hideo Kojima, but as a brand new IP from newcomer Moby Dick Studios, which, in retrospect, is a clever nod to the themes of loss, the desire for revenge, and its corrupting influence found in the final game. But back then, we were all like, you know, this game looks suspiciously like those games they have in the Metal Gear series. And yes, it was a Metal Gear game, but at the time we didn't know that. How better to hide your game and hype it up than by pretending it was another game made by another studio, run by a made-up person? Well, I can probably come up with several ways that would be easier, but none that would be this cool, nor would they give us the epic moment when Kojima reveals himself as the enigmatic Joaquin Mogren, the supposed head of Moby Dick Studios. When even the marketing strategy for your Metal Gear game is like a Metal Gear game, you know you've nailed it. Well, Hideo Kojima, you are an odd fellow, but you steam a good Metal Gear game. The next and 6th genius moment from Hideo Kojima was Death Stranding, both in the sense that it was another genius game, but also in that it was a complete departure from what everyone was expecting. Which is part of the problem, really. We should have realised at this point that thinking Hideo Kojima is going to do the thing we expect him to do is a massive mistake. What we did expect was a drip feeding of obtuse but captivating trailers, and we certainly got those. Starfighter Connor says he watched that reveal trailer from 2016 on repeat for 6 months until the next trailer came out and still didn't understand anything that was going on. But when we got more details, turns out it wasn't exactly the next Metal Gear. You know you loved sneaking around shady government facilities? Well, here you can trek through the open wilderness. You liked clones and nanomachines and giant robots. Here are umbilical ghosts and tar monsters. You liked saving the world by defeating groups of maniacal bad guys. Well, you can still do that. You do save it by delivering parcels, though. And yet it was incredible, astounding, groundbreaking. A game so unique players couldn't help but react viscerally, whether it was fawning adoration or baffled anguish. But it was a brand new world with brand new ideas that was completely and utterly Hideo Kojima. And I absolutely loved it. The final Genius Kojima moment is geniusly cheeky, and it's putting the mysterious Neil from Death Stranding 2 on the beach in a bandana. It's just a guy wearing a bandana. It's nothing to see here, except a guy wearing a bandana. Kojima knew exactly what he was doing, having Luca Marinelli put on that particular garment in that particular tactical grey in a trailer that would be seen by millions of dedicated Kojima fans. How could we not make that connection? I still don't even know what I'm getting at. It's just a bandana. I could put on a bandana. Look, doesn't do anything. It's just a bandana. Never being one to half-heart something, Kojima then proceeds to park the DHV Magellan, the new tar boat / forward operating base, on a giant BT's head. Now, I'm not going to draw any direct comparisons, but let's just say I'm pretty sure I've seen and fought something very similar to this before. Oh, Hideo Kojima, stop teasing us. And there you go, that was 7 times Hideo Kojima was an absolute genius. If you thought this video was absolutely genius, then make sure to give it a like and leave a comment about your favourite Kojima moment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this and keep up to date with all things PlayStation, it would be a genius move to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.
PlayStation